Hey, everybody, welcome to another edition of Huddle Up with Howard Richards. I'm Mike Claiborne. And Howard, I'll let you take it from here because we have a special guest, somebody you know oh so well.
Indeed, our guest today is a guy that is, to me, one of the most underutilized and underappreciated players in the National Football League, especially with the Dallas Cowboys. He was a all-time leading rusher at Winston-Salem State. Very versatile guy, came to the Cowboys, drafted in the 6th round of the 1980 draft. And as I said, this guy had so much talent, pound for pound, the strongest guy on the team, but just an all-around wonderful guy, a guy that if you are a parent, you would want your daughter to marry this guy. Welcome to Huddle with Howard, Mr. Timothy Arthur Newsome.
How you doing, my brother? You doing all right?
Well, I'm doing great, man. Thank you. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, I got one question right off the bat. You say the strongest, and then you said what year he was drafted. Now, we didn't have the elaborate weight rooms that we have today in pro sports. So I'm assuming that Tim was country strong instead of weight room strong.
Yep, but he was both. Timmy was both. I mean, just amazing. You know, I became sort of a weightlifter, but Tim just had that raw, natural, brute strength. When I saw him doing front squats with almost 400 pounds, I'm like, this dude right here should be playing offensive line.
Well, you know, it's a funny story about that. When I went to Winston-Salem State, we didn't have any weight. And so I had gone back home for the summer after my freshman year, and I already had some weights from high school, and I had to borrow some weights from a friend of mine because I had to rehabilitate my left knee because I tore ligaments in my knee. And so it was through that experience that I gained an appreciation for weightlifting, and I've been lifting weights ever since.
And, you know, something else that you have done, talking post-career now, which is shocking to me. You've run how many marathons?
I've run 5 marathons.
at 200, what do you weigh now? Like 220, 230 still?
Right now I'm about 208.
208. So you've trimmed down, but we've gotten to see each other over the last few years, man, and you look fantastic. You look at least 20 years younger than you are. So kudos to you for that tremendous workout regimen.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Hey, Tim,
I never thought I would be a long distance runner, and I kind of stumbled into it. So, but I really enjoy it now.
Well, I want to ask you, how did you stumble into it? You're this hulking football player. You mentioned you're over 200 pounds. I was watching a little bit of Boston Marathon the other day. I didn't see one guy that looked like he was over 150 pounds out there running. So how did you find your way to the marathon circuit?
Well, I played USTA level tennis, and I've been doing that for many years. And I had kind of taken a hiatus from playing tennis, and I decided to go to my athletic club and do some running on the treadmill. And there was this guy beside me, and we would kind of run together just about every day. And he says, you know what, as much as you're on that treadmill, maybe you should get out and do a 5K. And say, I don't know if I want to do that. He said, well, yeah, just go ahead. So I started running outside a lot. And then he said, well, maybe you got a half marathon in you. And this was back in 2014. And so my first half marathon was December of 2014, and I've been running ever since.
What's your best marathon time?
It's right at 4:45.
Nice, easy jog. Okay.
Marathon back in 2015.
Well, that's quite an accomplishment.
I mean, the hardest part is getting used to the time factor of being on the road for that long a period of time. I mean, that was incredibly difficult to think about once I started my training.
Yeah, I want to ask you because while I've never thought about running that far unless somebody was chasing me, and then I just give up. But my question would be, what are you thinking about over a 4.5+ hour run? I mean, how do you stay focused in something like that other than trying to put the left one in front of the right one?
I play a lot of music in my head. I'll recite songs that I know about. And so I use that. And sometimes I'll think about work. or I'll look at the surroundings and see something and think about that for a few minutes. And so it just kind of bounces around all over the place. And then sometimes I just get in the zone and I can't remember what I'm thinking about. So it just varies. The main thing is to run relaxed and not feel as though everything is stressed while I'm doing it. So that's the reason I do a lot of it, is that it relieves a lot of stress and I just relax when I'm running.
Let's talk about your football career a little bit, Tim. You obviously mentioned you were drafted in round 6 in the Cowboys in 1980, a year before I joined the team. What were your early impressions of the organization and, of course, Tom Landry?
Well, first of all, when I got drafted, I was projected to play fullback, even though in college I was more of a tailback. I never really blocked anybody in college because I ran the ball so much. And I remembered being in the practice facility and Coach Landry walking up to me. He says, Timmy, what position did you play in college? I said, well, Coach, I was a tailback. Now, that was an odd question because they drafted me. And I said, I play tailback. And he says, well, good, we're going to turn you into a fullback. And he patted me on my shoulder and then walked away. And so I moved to fullback and started backing up Ron Springs and Robert Newhouse. Ron Springs the year before was the backup to Tony Dorsett, and they decided to move him to fullback. And so that's kind of the beginning of me playing fullback. And then over the years, I was kind of a hybrid because I would go back and forth between fullback and tailback.
You know, as I look at today's college football and today's NFL, so much of a lot of the things that we did in the passing game has been amped up a notch at this level. And I think of you in your role as a fullback. I mean, you had a tremendous hands. You could catch the football. You were a heck of a blocker. I mean, can you imagine you playing today and the versatility that you brought to that team back then? You'd be one of those guys that, probably would get 50, 60 touches, 50, 60 catches coming out of the backfield per year, blocking as an H-back. I mean, because frankly, you were probably as good, if not better, than the tight ends that we had blocking. Like as a fullback. No, I'm being honest. Being honest.
Right. Well, it's interesting when I think, because I was at the game Sunday when they were playing the New York Giants, and people were asking me what position I played when I was on the team, and I said I was a fullback, and they said, well, where is that? I said, that position is no longer relevant. And then I thought to myself, I said, well, what would I be doing? And you're right, I would probably be that H-back, which is a hybrid between a tight end and a fullback, and I'd be in the slot a lot, and I'd be on the wing. And so you're right as well in terms of me catching the ball a little bit more than I did during my career. But, it's interesting to see the transition away from the position of fullback into that H-back kind of a role. But I think I would have been doing that. And they probably would have put me as a single back in some situations as well.
Hey, Tim, for you, as you mentioned, you were a tailback. They suggest to you or insist that you're going to be a fullback. You mentioned you hadn't done a lot of blocking. Then you end up being one of the most devastating blockers at that position. So how did you learn that? Because, blocking and tackling are acquired tastes. Everybody doesn't want to do it, but that's the only way they can survive sometimes. So they have to go out and find a way. So what was your key?
Robert Newhouse, the late Robert Newhouse, taught me how to block. He saw me block somebody one day and he started laughing, and I walked over. I said, what are you laughing at? He said, man, if you keep blocking like that, you're going to get hurt. He said, come to my room tonight and I'm going to show you how to take my job. And he said it in just that fashion. And I look at him, I'm smiling. He said, no, I'm serious. Come to my room and I'll show you how to block. And so I went to his room and he says, look, he said, you block like you run. He said, run through the guy and you won't have nearly the problems that you're having now. He said, what you're doing is that you're running up to the guy, widening your base, and you're not getting any leverage. He said, just run through the guy. And so that's how I learned to block, and he taught me how to do it.
All right, to piggyback on that, a rewarding moment is when a fullback can just really flatten a guy. So what did you lick your chops at? A lead block or picking up a guy on a blitz and he never saw you step up into the hole where you can really step into him? And who was the toughest guy to block? I think I know the answer, but I'll let you go ahead and finish it.
Well, the element of surprise is always best in the National Football League, because if they expect to see you, it's probably going to be a stalemate, and sometimes you're going to lose some of those battles. So I've always enjoyed the element of surprise. The toughest guy for me to block, believe it or not, was Lawrence Taylor.
Yep.
He had a really high motor, and I always needed help. Whenever we got the game plan package in the beginning of the week, there was always help from a tackle. And Lawrence Taylor was a linebacker, and so he was probably the most fierce competitor that I'd ever faced as a fullback.
Let's take a quick break. We're going to come back. We've got Tim Newsome as our guest. This is Huddle Up with Howard on ClaibsOnline.com.
The only thing faster than this supersonic golf cart are the closing times at thehomeloanexpert.com. Mortgage rates on the twos, and we have a 21-day closing guarantee. Apply online today at thehomeloanexpert.com.
All right, back with Tim Newsome. This is Huddle Up with Howard. I'm Mike Claiborne. He's Howard Richards. Howard, take it away.
Tim, so the running back room with the Cowboys throughout the time that we played together from 81 to 86, and you, of course, being there a year earlier, at different times you had Tony Dorsett, Ron Springs, Robert Newhouse, and Hershel Walker. What was that experience like? Those are easily very recognizable names that have ever played in the NFL. What was it like to be in the room? I think I know. I mean, I know, but let's tell our viewers what that was like.
Well, it's interesting. When we got Hershel, there was a lot of fanfare about Hershel playing fullback. And so one of the things I did when he arrived is I went to Coach Landry and I said, Coach, I understand Hershel is going to probably play some fullback. I said, I just want to know what my role will be going forward if that's the case. He says, well, Timmy, Hershel's not really a fullback. He said, he's a tailback. He said, of course, we'll play him at fullback some, but for the most part, he's going to be in there when Dorsett isn't. And so it made me a little bit more at ease. But being in the meeting room was kind of interesting, because here I am coming from a small school at Winston-Salem State University, and there were 2 Heisman Trophy winners that I'm having to block for on a daily basis. And you get caught up and you get trapped in all of that star power, and sometimes you lose focus. But after a while, it became just commonplace for me to be around. Ron Springs, I think, was a comedic talent. Probably could have gone on tour as a comedian. He always kept things alive and lively. There was never a day that he was down or feeling sorry for himself, and he kept us just in tears laughing about certain things that he would say. And so he was certainly one of the more enjoyable people that I've ever met before playing football.
Hey, I'm going to roll this out to both you guys. And I've talked to guys who played a little bit after you. Some guys have played with you, and we talk about practice and how much that's changed in the game, and how you see it on the college level. Tim, I'm sure you've seen how it works in the NFL. And I've had more guys say our practices were tougher than some of the games we had because of the contact that ensued, something that you don't see a great deal of. Give me some memorable practice moments for both you guys.
Howard, you want to go first?
You go first. You're the guest.
Okay. Practices were very, very long and hard. There wasn't a day that we did not have contact, especially in training camp and even sometimes during the season. And so in training camp, we would practice twice a day, and then we would run wind sprints after the afternoon practice, and that was difficult. In the mornings, what we would do, we'd have this concentration drill where we would deal with formations. And if you missed a formation, then you'd have to run a 400-meter sprint around the track. So it was very stressful from a mental standpoint, but also physically, because we were constantly in individual drills and engaged in contact. And we were really running at full speed in every single practice, and full pads.
And Tim's exactly right. 2-a-days in training camp out in Thousand Oaks. The reason the Cowboys practiced or held training camp at Thousand Oaks was because the weather in Dallas, or pretty much anywhere in Texas, was just too hot to really get work in. The temperate climate in Thousand Oaks, California, offered you the opportunity to get a lot of work in. I mean, it wasn't necessarily cool. You'd have warm days. It was a perfect climate to get a lot of work done. And I think from the time that I was there, we had one day in the 6 years, 6 training camps that I attended, where it actually rained. Only one. And it wasn't rained out. We still practiced. But, you know, the level of intensity was just no joke. You had to be on all day long. And again, your work week during the season starts on Wednesday. Wednesday was offensive day. You saw your offensive game plans. Thursday, defensive day. Of course, you're in full pads in both of those days. Fridays was a little bit lighter because we were only in helmets and shoulder pads. You're doing 2-minute special teams, third down, 2-minute situations, and mostly your specialized situations that you'll face on Sunday. But you're right. By the time you got to Sunday, the games were easy because you worked so hard during practice. And that lends itself to the old adage that you practice, you play like you practice. So Sundays really were almost like a walk in the park.
Yeah. And I want to also add, one of the things about pro football is different than college. College football, you had an opportunity to practice every play that you're going to run during the game. In professional football, because you don't have that size of a roster, you may only run 20 to 30% of the plays you're actually going to run in a game. So everything else you had to memorize or watch during practice, watch someone else do it, or watch the game film the day after practice to get a visualization on how you would run it if you were actually having to participate in that particular play during the game. And that was difficult to do because you had to really picture it in your mind as to how you will do it without physically practicing it.
All right, for you guys played on some really good teams with some great players. We talked about a couple of Hall of Famers. Give me the one guy because of what you saw of him in the locker room and certainly in practice and even on the sidelines on game day that you said to yourself, man, I'm sure glad he's on our team because I don't know if I'd want to face this guy on the other side of the ball.
I'll start. For me, it was a guy that, of course, is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame that I had to go up against in practice almost every day, and that was number 54, known as the Manster, Randy White. His level of focus and intensity was just unmatched. So you couldn't take any days off. I mean, you had to be on your game every single day, or you'd go out and get embarrassed. And, you know, being the prideful player that I wanted to be, you know, that I was, I didn't want that to happen to me. So it quickly elevated my game in a hurry. And, you know, minus the injuries, you know, I think that I probably would have had a even better career because of being able to go against the likes of Randy White in practice every day.
You know, I can't think of another player than what Howard just said and mentioned. He was one of a kind. I mean, he had a high motor every single day. And I'm just glad I didn't have to block him.
Now, were you guys on the team the day when he found out his dad died and they were playing the Broncos in Denver and he went out and had like 16, 17 tackles and I think 12 or 13 of them were solos? Were you on that team?
I don't remember that.
I don't remember that, but I think that predated me arriving there.
Yeah.
So I felt bad for the guys. I felt bad for the Broncos because, you know, you find out your dad dies right before the game and you figure somebody's going to pay for it. And obviously the Broncos did. Right. Hey, for Tim Newsome, you mentioned some dynamic backs. Tell me about what you saw and what made Tony Dorsett so great. You know, he wasn't a big man. He was quick. He had great vision and he ran on AstroTurf as well as anyone. What are some of the things you saw?
It was his quickness and speed. As a blocker, I did not have to sustain my block very long before he was past me and the defender. And so he just needed just a little crease and he was already gone. Hershel was a little bit different. I had to hold the blocks a little bit longer because he didn't have that instant acceleration. And so he was a little bit different person for me to block for. But Dorsett, all I needed was just to get in front of that guy just instantaneously, and he was already by the defender.
Let's take another quick break. We'll come back. Tim Newsome's with him. He's with Howard Richards. It's Huddle Up with Howard. We'll be back.
Every day, Ameren, Illinois works to deliver reliable energy throughout the state to on-the-go families, in-the-know grandparents, and busy students. But did you know we also have ways to manage your energy? Paperless billing, outage notifications, pick a due date, auto pay, and so much more. So no matter who you are or how you use your energy, there's an option that's right for you. Learn more at amerenillinois.com/options.
We continue with Huddle Up with Howard. Tim Newsome, former Dallas Cowboy running back, and Howard Richards, great Dallas Cowboy fame, is with us as well. Final segment here. Tim, what are you doing these days? I mean, you've been out of the game for a while. You found a day job, I understand.
Yes, I'm in technology, and what we do is we are managed service providers, and we provide collaboration products for the mid-size to enterprise customer, and we sell telephone systems. And I've been doing that now for the past 30 years. In fact, I'm celebrating my 30th year in the technology business this year.
Congratulations, Tim. But not only is he in the technology field, he owns his own business. Is it New Tech Solutions? Is that the name of the company, Tim?
Yeah, New Tech Business Solutions.
Tremendous to be able to, we see how small businesses are struggling these days and how difficult it is to sustain that, but you have managed to do so for 30 years. And I'll just add that Timmy, in addition to be a tremendous football player, just a highly intelligent individual. I mean, a guy could probably solve any math problem that you put in front of him. I'm singing your praises, man, because I have nothing but respect for you. I always have, and I always will. You're a tremendous teammate. I also want to congratulate you on two tremendous honors. In 1993, you were inducted into the Winston-Salem State Hall of Fame. But in 2019, an even bigger honor, you were inducted into the Black College Football Hall of Fame. Tell us about that.
Well, the thing I tell people about the Black College Football Hall of Fame is that it's a national honor. And you have Walter Payton, Jerry Rice, a lot of guys who played in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Harold Carmichael is in there. Michael Strahan is in there. So it's an institution that I wanted to be in for many, many years, and I'm glad that I was selected to be inducted and be a part of such an honored association.
I'm glad you brought it up, Howard, that he went into the Black College Football Hall of Fame. And it seems like there may be a resurgence. I know, Tim, for you, and I went to a black college as well. It was kind of like, well, I know I can go there and play and I'll have a good time, meet some pretty women, and who knows what happens from there. I had no aspirations to play pro football. I wasn't good enough. You were, but I see a lot of guys, and maybe because of the Deion Sanders effect and what he's doing at Jackson State, Eddie George is now at Tennessee State. Now we've got guys who've gone through the process of the NFL. Do you see the black college football resurgence as I think it might come up to here in the very near future?
Well, at one time I thought that might be the case, but here's the wild card. Since that court ruling in the O'Bannon case, guys now can go out on the open market and make money. The question becomes, how will a guy perceive an HBCU in terms of his market potential while he's playing the game? And so that's going to have a greater impact on whether or not a guy goes to an HBCU or goes to another university to receive some compensation while he's playing. So I'm concerned about that. But other than that, if I see no real appreciable differences in the two, if a guy wants to go play in an HBCU. And I'm really delighted to see Deion Sanders doing well. Eddie George is still trying to find his way at Tennessee State. But aside from the pay-for-play thing, I think it's a great opportunity for a young kid coming out of high school to play at an HBCU.
Hey, Howard, Winston-Salem State's got that big alum. All he has to do is write out a couple of checks to get some of those kids to come in. So Winston-Salem State will be on top here any day now.
No doubt.
Hey, Tim. I hope he hurry up to write that check because the football.
Oh, that's awesome. Hey, Timothy, man,
Yes.
appreciate you joining us today. It's always a pleasure to have a conversation with you, man. You're one of my favorite people ever in life. And next time I'm in Dallas, let's grab a cup of coffee together.
We can certainly do that.
Hey,
Thank you
Tim,
for having me.
Tim, make him buy you dinner, man. He gets off too easy with coffee, man. Hey, Tim, give me one good Howard story here, man. Give me one for the book here on Howard, man.
Well, Howard is what I call the intellectual offensive lineman of the group. He was very smart. He was very swift on his feet, and he could play guard or tackle with relative ease. And so he was a lot of fun to be around because of the intellectual nature of how he perceived the game and life. So I just enjoyed being around him.
Well, Tim, it's
Appreciate
been
that.
a pleasure to have you on the show. Best of luck and great success down the road. And when Howard does get there, find the best steak joint you can find and leave your credit card in the car.
Well, we're going to go to Nick and Sam's, Howard, just for the record.
There you
Okay,
go.
sounds
So
good.
How you can
Indeed.
start saving up now.
That's right.
He's Tim Newsome. That's Howard Richards. It's Huddle Up with Howard. I'm Mike Claiborne. We thank everybody for checking us out today. But before we get out of here,
The 2021 Acura TLX is the top-selling luxury sedan in St. Louis, and St. Louis Acura has an unbeatable selection. The TLX has the highest safety rating, and right now you can get $2,500 in Loyalty Conquest offers with 0% financing for up to 36 months. We offer free pickup and delivery, and we'll also buy your used vehicle, even if you don't buy from us. St. Louis Acura, committed to becoming better than ever for you.